What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of the Sports Courier. Happy New Year! Our first big interview of 2014. TNA Impact Wrestling superstar, TNA Gut Check winner, Jay Bradley, who is joining us fresh off of a tour of Japan with Wrestle One. Jay, thank you so much for your time, my man. I'm sorry I cut into your Xbox one time. Please forgive me. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You've got, I think my dog Lando wants to do a little cameo action on the screen here. So if he gets in the way, I apologize. But it's doing all right. It's kind of a cold, dreary, wintry storm weather right now. So I've kind of camped out indoors all day. So that's about it.
Hey, man, I'm in Jersey. I know how you feel. Now, Wrestle One. That's KG
Yeah.
Muto, Great Muta's new promotion.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It was great, man. Me and Rob Terry went over there for about 18, 19 days, I think. We did 2 shows right away, and then we had about five days off or so, and then we started traveling southward from Tokyo, and then did about another 6 or 7 shows or something like that. It's a different style of Japanese promotion, I want to say. It's not your typical, what people expect, if you're a hardcore Japanese wrestling fan or a real hardcore wrestling fan where it's not just straight Japanese pro wrestling. He's trying to be a little bit different in their business model and what they present to the fans, to where he's got his core Japanese guys that left All Japan with him, but then he's also infusing, there's a lucha match on every show. There's a women's match on every show. He's got some comedy guys on there, the traditional Japanese guys, and then he's bringing some Americans over. So it's a very diverse card and a very diverse show. So it's not just the straight pro wrestling matches like a lot of the Japanese fans are used to seeing. So I think hopefully that's going to be their niche. It is a little bit more entertainment based because they do have the interviews on the big screen. A little more character driven because he's a big fan, from my understanding, of American style of pro wrestling. So I think that's their plan, is to kind of diversify, what they're showing to their fans, as opposed to what New Japan's doing or All Japan or Nova's doing. Just be different. They did some really good. As far as I know, some really good business when we were over there. They ran a lot of the smaller buildings, but the majority of them were sellouts, or near to very packed small buildings. And then, they sold out Courier Hall, which was a really cool experience to be able to wrestle at there after, watching so many events go down, on DVD and tape over the years. So I think the next tour kicks off here in another couple of weeks, and then there's another one in February, and then the beginning of March is their first big show, if you want to say, where they're running the Sumo Hall in Tokyo, which is the same place New Japan and All Japan have ran. WWF runs there, WWE runs there when they go over to Tokyo. It's about a 10 or 15,000 seat arena. So we'll see how that goes for him. But I absolutely zero complaints. It was just an awesome experience to get in there, to be around in the locker room with guys like who I'm a fan of, like Muta and Takayama, and then being able to get in the ring with guys that I've seen, or like some of the smaller lightweight guys like Kaz Hayashi, who I've watched a lot of, and what's his name? Koji Kanemoto and Miro Tanaka. Those guys have been around, like 20-year vets, and I've seen so much of their stuff from Japan over the years, and it's like, wow, now I finally get to get in the ring and show what I got with these guys. So it was nice. It was a great experience, man. I keep saying that, but literally, it's probably one of the best experiences of my career so far.
Very cool. Now you've been. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Is it still hard to adjust to that Japanese style, going from American style?
No. I think as long as I've been doing it, I've learned that it's all just pro wrestling. it's a universal language, and yeah, there's a language barrier with some of the guys. They didn't speak much English, and obviously I don't speak a whole lot of Japanese, just some broken basic words, but there was always usually somebody around there in the locker room that spoke, at least decent conversational English, enough to help us out if we were stuck with something, or to help us get around the town, or to the gym or the restaurant, wherever we were. But as far as adjusting to the style, it's just a matter of, as far as for me, if I would have gone over there earlier in my career, I think I would have had a hard time adjusting, because I would have had a misinterpretation of what I thought Japanese wrestling was all about. And as I've grown as a wrestler over the years, and I've got more experience, and I've worked with different people, and acquired my own style and whatnot, it's kind of just become second nature of what I have to work with in the ring, as far as my personal strengths and weaknesses, and then my opponents or my tag partners. And then from there, just understanding what we need to accomplish that evening for the promoter or the booker, and kind of go from there. And that's why I say it's kind of a universal language. Plus, you get in there with guys like Kanemoto and Tanaka and Kazuhashi. These are guys that have 20, 25 years experience in pro wrestling. I think I was going to be all right in the ring with these guys. You know what I mean? I don't think there was going to be, I felt like the weak link a lot of times, and I'm not trying to put myself over there and say that, but I mean, those guys are just, they've achieved that almost legendary status as junior heavyweights over there. They've been around so long, and that they're revered. But you get in the ring with those guys, it's you're in good hands as a performer, as a wrestler too. So it was a lot of fun.
That's very cool, and a lot of people might not know this actually, but you were in WWE as Ryan Braddock. And
I was. I think I had a couple stops of catering for there, and I don't drink coffee, but I definitely had enough diet soda and water.
Well, there was a huge turnover rate during that time, in the mid 2000s or so, and a lot of guys were there and then just never heard from again. You yourself kept going, kept striving for success, and this last year has been pretty awesome for you, getting signed with TNA, and of course touring Wrestle One and everything you're doing in OVW. What is that like, going from essentially living the dream of WWE, that not working out for you, having to pick yourself back up, and now really living the dream again on a major national stage in TNA?
You know what? I kind of, if you want to call it a sabbatical, or I took time away after WWE. Mentally and I think emotionally, I was just completely burnt out on wrestling after that. I was with WWE for 3.5, almost 4 years working for them. And in that, you mentioned that turnover rate, and with that turnover rate, that's always kind of in the back of your mind. But at the same time, you try to put it aside, but it's there, and with that becomes a lot of stress. That at least I could never get away from, because this isn't just like a typical job where you check in and check out on the clock and you're done and you go home. It's a lifestyle. So when my time was done with WWE, I felt really relieved that I could get away from that and just relax for a little bit and have fun wrestling again, or see what else I could do, and just kind of enjoy life a little bit more without any restrictions on me. But as I tried to find another opportunity after that, with wrestling, we were going through that recession. The business was shrinking, and it was really hard to get in anywhere. So with that, the frustration set back in, and I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm just going to take some time off. If I wrestle again, that's fine. If I don't, that's fine too. I got out of WWE. I was on tour with them quite a bit. I did a lot of live events for them, and a lot of dark matches, to where I knew what the lifestyle was. I knew how the company was ran. I did a European tour for them. So I knew the talent was there, the potential was there, and I had what it takes. It was just a matter of finding the right opportunity. And not being able to find it just kind of frustrated me more. So, like I said, I kind of just took some time away and was just like, I'm just going to see what else is out there. Like, I went back to school for a little bit to work on another degree. I helped my brother get involved and start up with the insurance business and just explored other options out there. Started getting into like MMA training and conditioning just to stay physical and stay fit. And then kind of wrestling kind of came back to me. I ran into Al Snow at an indie show that was near my house in Illinois, and caught up with him from my time in OVW from years ago, and Al had just gotten a position in the TNA office where he was kind of the talent scout, so to say, and hey, send me some stuff, and I'd like to get you down there and take a look at you for a dark match, and that's kind of how it all kicked off.
That's awesome, man. And with the Ryan Braddock character, I mean, or lack thereof, I mean, what was the motivation of the character? What was it supposed to be? Because I remember just randomly one day you're on SmackDown and
Yeah.
you're getting beat up by the Big Show. It's like, did they just tell you one day, hey, Jay, go out, get beat up by the Big Show, or did they kind of have a plan for you, like they kind of do now with some guys bring them up from NXT?
Let me. The motivation of the character. There really isn't a whole lot of difference between, I mean, to me at least, what Ryan Braddock was or could have been and what people are seeing now or have seen what Jay Bradley is. In essence, it was kind of the same rough, rugged, ass-kicking guy. I just really never got the chance to show it much in WWE because, like you said, it's just here, go out there and get knocked out. Here, go out there and get chokeslammed by the Great Khali, etc. By that time, I was in over 3.5 years of time, or 3 years into WWE. And by that time, I had also gotten the call, the magic call to go to TV and start full time, probably almost a half a dozen times. There was the thing with I was supposed to be partnered with JBL. There was another one where I was supposed to be, like with Edge and Orton as a bodyguard. Supposedly, I had a couple different tag partners, and that fell through due to guys getting released or guys, failing wellness policies, or it's just one thing after the other. So I think it was just a matter of when they finally did do something with me. There was that summer, like you said, where all of a sudden there was all these new guys, and it was a really high turnover rate where they were just sitting on a bunch of guys that it was like, okay, it was kind of, we gotta, what, or get off the pot at this point with some of these guys and see if they're going to sink or swim. So when I got up there, honestly, the match you saw with Big Show wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be me versus Hunter. And I was like, wow, damn, like, what a way to debut on SmackDown going against Hunter, the boss pretty much, and he was a WWE champion at the time. And then it got flip-flopped back and forth a couple times during the day, and then it ended up being the Big Show. But I ended up catching the boss's eye, being Vince, and crazy story. And this is one big run-on story, so sorry if it's getting long-winded here.
Not at all. Go ahead.
I think we were in Orlando. We were right about to go for a UK tour, I think. And this is when they were also trying to get Kazarni on TV. And Vince didn't know if he wanted Kazarni to be a babyface or a heel or really what to mold the character into. And they put me, or Arn Anderson, I think, was put me in the ring with Kazarni, and was like, all right, kid, boss wants to take a look at him tonight. Let's make him look good and see what we can do with him. And then I guess Vince ended up taking more of a liking to me during the match for whatever reason, and came and got me, and I had a brief meeting with him and was just like, I really like your look. You look rugged. You wrestle rugged. I've got some ideas for you. I want to change your look up a little bit. At the time, I had long jet black hair, and I had a more of a scruffy, fuller beard. So instantly, I had to go get a haircut and shave my face from the stylist, and girls at TV. And when I knocked back on Vince's door, he didn't even recognize me.
Oof.
So I was like, well, there goes that bullet in the chamber. And from there, it was kind of just treading water for another couple months. And unfortunately, I saw the writing on the wall, but I kept trying to make the best of it, find new things. But again, it was like one of those things, like there was a big purge at that time, so they fired a bunch of people off the roster. They fired guys in creative that I was working with on developing new stuff. I remember going up to Stanford, actually, to the home office to meet with the SmackDown creative team to talk about this Elvis-based persona that Vince and Hunter had come up with for me, because with the short black hair and the way I looked, there was a joke that I looked like a young Elvis. And I remember sitting in the creative conference room and being like dead silent. Like no one had any idea what to do with it. Like literally, I remember the conversation. I think it was Freddie Prinze Jr. was writing at the time for SmackDown, if it gives you a time frame, and he was just like, "So do you have any ideas for this?" And I was like, "Guys, actually, absolutely none. I don't know anything about Elvis. I don't think the audience nowadays really cares or knows about Elvis, kids these days." And he was kind of like, "Yeah, me neither." He's like, "I don't think this is going to be a good fit for you." He goes, "So I'm going to come up with something else." And unfortunately, Freddie left shortly after that, and that something else never came, and I was given my walking paper shortly after that.
So you almost became Elvis.
Yeah, I don't see. That's the thing. Like, I don't know what he had in mind. It was just like, here was this guy with a clean shaven face now, and short black hair, and if I'm clean shaven, I can have a very, very young baby faced look to me, and I can't remember who said it on the European tour. It was like Undertaker or Triple H. It was like, oh, it's like young Elvis. Now without underneath all that hair you cut off. And Vince caught wind of it and was just like, "God damn, I like it." That was it. Like I had no other direction to work with. So, he could have had Honky Tonk Man, 2000, 2.0 in mind or something, or the bastard son of Elvis. I have no idea. And I was just trying to find anything to make something of this. Like I remember meeting with Dusty Rhodes about it in Tampa, and Dusty Rhodes, who is supposedly one of the creative geniuses of making something out of nothing, hiding weaknesses and strengths, and him not being able to do anything with it, and him telling me this is going to kill my career if I don't find something else. And, it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason, and I really, at the time, it was kind of a bitter pill to swallow, but I really don't look down upon it whatsoever. In that time frame, I learned so much about pro wrestling, not only in the ring, but in the locker room, the politics, the big business of it all. So I will never, say, I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I didn't go, or anything like that, because hey, it was a dream come true, and I got paid to live a dream and do something that the vast majority of people that get in the ring never will get to. And because of that opportunity with WWE, I've been able to pretty much travel the world and learn from some of the best people ever, and kind of mold my career and my wrestling style the way I wanted to make it, not what someone else wanted to try to push me and fit me into.
And yeah, that's a tremendous story, and definitely a great way of looking at it too. Because at the end of the day, it's like the NFL. How many guys get to play in the NFL? There's quarterbacks in college that were awesome that would die to just have played, one down in the NFL. Whether it be preseason, regular season, playoffs, whatever. But you did step away from the business for a bit. You did get some perspective, which is pretty cool. You talked about working on getting another degree. How important is it, do you think, to not only have a backup plan, but also have a balance? Because as great as wrestling is, it can also be very consuming, and at times it can leave a bad taste in your mouth if things don't go your way.
As far as a backup plan, here's my thing is I almost I don't want to say I regret it. I absolutely do not regret having an education whatsoever. So don't take this the wrong way. But I think I wish I would have waited to go to college. Till maybe I was done getting the WWE or the wrestling bug out of me for a little bit. I think I would have done a lot better and devoted more time to it there. I got involved in pro wrestling at such a young age. I was still in high school. I was 16 years old, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. To a point to where a lot of times, like, I made it to maybe a higher priority than I should have. And I think part of that reason, maybe I didn't do as well at school as I know I could have or should have. So I look at that time where it's like, no, I'm definitely glad I have an education, to put on a resume, or, I have that knowledge or that experience, of just being marketable and being trainable or coachable, so to say, in the business world or the real world outside of, crazy wrestling one I live in now, to be able to do something else. That's always an option. So I think that's a big thing, especially nowadays. I know WWE's, that's really a favorable thing because, let's be honest, like, WWE knows the average guy on their roster is only going to last 3 to 5 years. Now, you can make an incredible amount of money, or you can just kind of make okay money, or you can make developmental money, But they know with their statistics and how the trends are and how they do business, the average guy is going to last them 3 to 5 years. They're going to get that oddball guy that's going to be the Orton or the Cena that's going to last years for them. But what do you do with the rest of your life then? So, yeah, I definitely think you need some sort of backup plan or whatever it is, or something to fall back on. And as far as having a balance, I think that's needed too. I think when I was with WWE, I really let the wrestling business consume almost my entire life. It wasn't what I did. It became what I was almost 24/7. Because again, you're inundated with it. You're wrestling on the weekends for whatever developmental area you're in, or you're on the main roster, or you're on the road, and then you got home, and then I went to practice, and I went to developmental TV, and it was just repeat. That was my life. And that's one of the things I'm really appreciating now with TNA this past year, and now hopefully with Wrestle 1, 2, as hopefully that relationship grows, is that I have time just to have a life. Like, I can go hang out with my friends. I can see my family. I'm able to have a dog now because I'm actually around a little bit more than I was when I was with WWE. So there's more of a balance there just because the schedule isn't as crazy. I can book myself out on indies or do other things or other work if I want to or need to, but it's at my discretion. It's not in someone else's control. So that's one of the things I'm definitely, liking. So if I'm not on TNA and I take, a couple weeks and I go to Wrestle 1 and I come back and I have a couple weeks off, and I'm right back to the grind 24/7. So it's different. It's much appreciated on my part, for sure.
And were there any growing pains with TNA at all, like there were with WWE, or after that whole WWE experience and, kind of traveling the world on the indies and as a WWE superstar, were you pretty much able to navigate the waters there?
Like, what do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. Every backstage atmosphere is different. Did it take some time to adjust? I mean, being out of business for a while, or how welcome were you? Because granted, you've been around for a while, but you're still technically one of the younger guys compared to the other people that have been around for a while.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I knew, whatever you want to phrase it, probably the vast majority of the TNA roster just from over the years. I was with guys like TJ Perkins and Samoa Joe, Kazarian and Chris Daniels. I knew all those guys when I was in LA for the New Japan LA Dojo. So I knew a lot of those guys. I know Sabin from Austin Aries, another one. And Velvet, all these people from when I was going up on the indies. God, who else? I know I'm forgetting people. Ken Anderson's another one. I've known Ken we literally pretty much started around the same time. Him up in Wisconsin and Minnesota, me down in Chicago. So I knew a lot of the locker room. A lot of locker room knew about me, knew where I was. And I even remember someone saying to me at one point, like, "Hey, you've been around long enough. If you start speaking your mind a little bit or speaking up a little bit more, like you're not going to be looked down upon." Not that I was going to start throwing my weight around or anything like that, so to say. But as far as the locker room atmosphere from WWE to TNA, I guess you could say it is very much night and day. TNA seems to be a little bit more of a laid-back atmosphere. It's not as tense or high-strung on TV days. That's one thing I definitely noticed. I do have a little bit more fun TNA TV, I think, due to that reason, and also to the fact that it's like I kind of know what to expect now, with my experience and my background where, okay, I've done TV for WWE, I've done TV in Japan, and all right, I've done TV for OVW, FCW, whatever else out there. It's like, it's just, it's another day of TV, and it's 3 different letters on the paycheck and on the jumbotron. So I think the experience came into play where it was just kind of like it's just another day at the office.
And there's been a very big youth movement lately. Now, you haven't been on TV for a little while. Of course, you've been doing your thing with Wrestle One. When can fans expect you back on Impact Wrestling?
That's the magic question right now, isn't it? I really don't know. I'd love to say, hey, tune in later tonight and see me. I don't. I don't have any idea right now. I'm kind of at I don't want to say a standstill of any sort or anything like that. I'm just, like you said, they're trying to inject a new flavor into the company, I think, and bring in some of these newer faces like Rockstar Spud, who's been in the company about as long as I have, but wasn't used yet. The elevation of Magnus, even bringing in EC3 to the fold, putting the Bromans in the position they're at as the tag team champions. These are all relatively new guys, and I think that's a good thing because I think a lot of what and don't get me wrong, I don't want to come across I'm knocking TNA or any product in general. I think a lot of what's going on in wrestling lately, the last handful of years, that a lot of it's blurring together. A lot of the personalities are very, very similar. A lot of the wrestling styles are very, very similar. And you look at those guys that they're coming out with, they're trying to put out there to the audience. They're new faces, so hopefully new people or people see them and go, what is this guy about? I've never seen this guy before, and their personalities are new and different than what's out there right now. Maybe so hopefully their personalities and their wrestling styles can captivate the audience to keep them watching and keep them coming back for the product. So I think it's awesome that TNA is doing that. I think the business in general needs that right now. I think that's all the companies across the board, because why do we still have the same main eventers that we had 10 years ago? Why do we have the same main eventers coming back for part-time contracts, getting big bucks when the boys on the road aren't getting that? Because, you know what I mean? It's like there's something there that needs to change. And I think maybe it's a youth movement, and maybe it's just something new or different that's going to excite the crowd or the kids as far as the audience goes nowadays to hook them back in.
I hope you're right, man. I think there definitely needs to be. I mean, yeah, with all due respect to both companies, I think definitely we need some new blood there. You know what I mean? It's, hey, no disrespect to the other guys, but I mean, it's like trends. You know what I mean? There's always things that change. There's fashion. I mean, video games. You were talking about the Xbox One off the air. I mean, you know what I mean? If they kept the Xbox 360 for just 10 years, people would get kind of sick of it.
Yeah.
So
as far as the rest of your question goes, when I'm back, I'm here. I'm still under contract. I don't say that with a negative tone whatsoever. I mean, I've only gotten better. I've gotten to Japan and gotten better. I'm here. I've put on some. Since I've been off TV, my goal is to kind of like get bigger and increase some strength, and I've done that. So using my time wisely. I know the opportunity will come, it's just kind of a numbers game, as far as like, all right, we only have so many minutes of TV every week, and we've got a fairly fresh new face that's, has quite a bit of talent and quite a bit of upside to him, and he's got a ton of experience. It's kind of a no-brainer. So, it'll happen. It's just a matter of, when. So I think you guys will probably find out, probably before I do with you internet guys. You guys seem to find out things quicker than I do, so we'll see.
Hey, we're just cool like that, right? Now, do you have some time for a few fan questions? We got a lot of people that want to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, man, that's fine. Go ahead.
Awesome. All right. You mentioned getting bigger. Eugene wants to know, what workout tips can you recommend him, since his New Year's resolution is to be big and jacked like Jay Bradley?
I don't know about big and jacked. I call myself husky and burly, according to my genes when I was growing up. You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. Everybody's different on that. I have a very odd set of circumstances, I say. Like, I have a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but I have food allergies, which kind of limit some of the things I can eat. And I'm also very blessed to have the genetics I have where, if I don't work out, I'm still going to be over 240 pounds, and I'm still going to be 6'4". So, like, I'm just kind of blessed in that, and I come from a very athletic family. If people just want to get big and work out, it's not only working out, but a lot of it is your diet, as far as what, how much protein are you intaking, and what kind of food are you eating. Is a basic rule of thumb. Up your protein and cut out all your sugars and processed food in favor of fresh foods and lean meats, and that should be good to go.
Awesome. Now, Dave heard about you mentioning MMA training. He wants to know if there was ever a time where you thought about transitioning from pro wrestling to MMA, or just going into MMA altogether before pro wrestling.
No. The gyms I was working out at, they definitely offered it to me because, like, there was I don't want to call it, if you want to call it a fight team, or the fighters that trained out of there, that, they were, like I said, like, I'm 6'4" and 240 on a light time of my life, and they're like, dude, you can go to these MMA places, or you go to these the amateur and work your way up, and you're fighting like these fat bouncer guys. You'll knock them out in one punch, and have heavyweights, and it's just like, some fat guy who decided to go. I thought he was tough enough to do it, and he's like, you're an athlete, you're an athlete, and you know how to wrestle. I think that I'm just a little bit too long in the tooth, so to say, for that at this point in time. I didn't want to get in there. They're great workouts. I still do them to this day. I still get on the heavy bag and kickbox and box to condition for wrestling, and I still do some conditioning drills that I picked up there with just body weight stuff, or the kettlebells and tire flips, and all that stuff I integrated. That's how I kind of keep my conditioning and my wind up for the ring. But as far as actually pursuing it any further than that, I just wasn't interested. It was great to keep me toned and to do what I needed to do for wrestling, but that's really all I wanted to do with it.
Are you an MMA fan though? Like, besides of the training, or do you follow it at all, like UFC or?
Yeah. I'm not a diehard, but yeah, I do follow it on a semi-regular basis. The bigger fights, I'll try to find a place to watch it.
Did you see the Anderson Silva leg break?
I saw a video online of it. It was pretty gross, but I didn't see the fight itself.
Have you ever suffered an injury that bad in pro wrestling, or thankfully, knock on wood, you've been?
No, I'm actually pretty thankful. I've very light in the injury column, other than a concussion and some tendonitis. I've broken a thumb and separated a rib from some cartilage in my back. That's pretty much all I've really done. I mean, I'm sure I've had some other things that I don't know about it, but nothing severe like that, and nothing, no surgery requirements, nothing torn, no joints, everything's good.
All right. You were employed by WWE at the time that Ric Flair was employed. This gentleman asked this question to former WWE writer Andrew Goldstein, and I guess he's asking it to you too. Any epic Ric Flair stories backstage?
Trying to think. The only one that kind of stands out, it was just before my time with the company, and I think I was hired like a week later. I was actually there the day that Eddie Guerrero passed away. I was supposed to do a workout and do a dark match, and then I got to the Target Center in Minnesota, and I saw Ken Anderson, and he was crying, and he told me what happened, that Eddie had passed away. And they kind of got me and the guys I was with and kind of herded us together as far as like the non-contracted guys that were there to work out or whatever. And they kind of just put us in catering, and we're like, it's going to be a crazy day, guys. Just kind of stay out of the way, you know. And, you know, with respect, that's all we were going to do, you know what I mean? But they ended up coming up to us later in the day and said, hey, guys, you know, we're going to ask anybody who's not under contract to go ahead and leave. We're going to pay you for the day. If you guys want to go watch the show, we'll give you tickets. You guys can just be on your way just through the circumstances. You know, we understood that. And one of the guys that was in our group was kind of lagging behind, like his bag was in another area or something like that. And Ric Flair just cut this scathing promo on him in the back about typical Ric Flair, like beat red in the face, screaming, you know, yelling about this. You have no respect, kid. Do you know what we're all dealing with today? And you know, who the F? Why the F are you still here? Get the F out of my locker room, you disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, holy cow. So, I'm scurrying away even faster. Because at the time, I was, just some indie guy looking to get hired. But other than that, no, I think I missed any of the other ones that happened during my time personally. I would always hear about them later, but I don't think I ever witnessed any more than that.
Well, luckily, at least you weren't at the receiving end of that promo, man. I could imagine that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
All right, this person asks, who is the funniest person backstage in TNA?
Oh, wow. Man, I don't even know I really don't know. Huh. I don't know if say necessarily like the funniest, but you know who's always trying to rib people or goof off, or is Mr. Hebner. Earl Hebner is one of those people who's just like, and I hope someday like I achieve this level of like security with like pro wrestling where it's like he's at the point where he was like, man, I'm like, you know, he's however old he is, he's been around for so long, he just says whatever the hell he wants. And some of it's it's really off the cuff humor. He ribs people sometimes. Like I remember when I was doing an autograph signing, I really had to go to the bathroom, so I scooted away real quick while my line was low. And he came over and he took one of my 8x10s and he wrote, went to the bathroom break, be back in like an hour. And then he wrote another one, and then like something about like, you know, I'm too over to sign in if your crap go away or something like that. You know, like he's always, every time I see him, he's always doing something like that or dropping some comment. But I would say him. He's just kind of got that. That's his personality a little bit. But then again, too, like there's been some instances in the locker room, and I don't want to. I'm not going to say any names, but there was a certain guy who came in to get a look at from the company and just rubbed pretty much the entire locker room the wrong way. And during the show, when we were on the road, a lot of times, like, they'll bring the wrestlers food in the back, and it's just kind of like, you know, finger food, pizza, Subway, whatever, like, that's local that they can get quick and the guys can eat it while they're going and whatnot. And this guy came into the locker room and just like took over like a whole bench for him to like lay on, and just had like his crap everywhere, and walking around in his like skinny jeans and no shirt, like he was just like king of the world. And he went in and took like an entire pizza and then like hid it in like his locker or like in his gear bag or something like that. So like Austin Aries of all people, which was it's great what he did in my opinion. He saw it, took the pizza while the guy was gone, took an empty pizza box, flipped it open, and went learned some respect and put it back in there. So I mean, not intentionally funny. It was kind of a crappy circumstance, but to me that was pretty funny.
Yeah, Austin Aries, he's a cool cat, man. But you want to stay on his good side, I would imagine. All right, somebody here asks, what do you feel is your best match to date?
I don't think I've had one yet. And that's just me. I'm very hard on myself as far as my ring performances. I never really quite happy with any of them, or I'm never really satisfied with it. I always think they can be better, and I kind of like drive myself nuts at times. Nothing's popping in my head. I mean, I've worked a lot of people.
I mean, would you say? I mean, would you say you have like maybe like a member? I mean, maybe if not your best match, maybe perhaps something that's memorable, something you could cross off your bucket list. Like I got to work with this guy, and that's something I could tell my kids and my friends one day. Like I got to work with this legend, or something like that.
You know what? Like the only guy that like when I wrestled Vader last summer, that was cool. The match wasn't anything. It was solid, good match. It wasn't anything crazy or spectacular, in my opinion. But wrestling Vader was a cool one. I mean, I think I'm at a point in my career where I think just wrestling guys that have been on TV or are on TV, it's just kind of like, okay, no big deal. I've done it so many times, or I've been there. Excuse me. It just kind of like I get more interested and more jacked up about like was able to train with go to dinner with the Great Muta or work out with the Great Muta in Japan at his gym. That was cool for me. Or being able to to be mentored by like Arn Anderson or Barry Windham. While I was in WWE, like that's cool for me. Some of the matches that I've really enjoyed lately, unfortunately not a whole lot of people have seen because they took place in OVWs with a guy named Jamin Olivencia, who for the life of me, I can't figure out why he's not under contract somewhere or playing a bigger role in the industry. But just 2 matches this summer were just so much fun to wrestle with him, and and that's what they were just fun. We clicked. I don't remember anything particularly about them, but just he's been a lot of fun to get in the ring and go with.
Yeah, you're not the only one that's mentioned that name, man. I mean, he's a guy that seems like he's a rising star, but has yet to be really, plucked by TNA, a WWE, a Ring of Honor. You see some big things in his future?
Yeah, I've known Jamin. Crazy story. Jamin was my tag partner against Val Venus and Viscera in the match that I got hired from WWE.
Wow.
So that's how long Jamin's been around. That was like when he was first training in OVW, and he's been an OVW mainstay ever since. And he's just one of those guys. Like he gets it. He's a smaller, fiery, never say die baby face. He's got a lot of fire in him, and he can work with and wrestle with most people. I haven't really seen him a ton recently, other than like the last 6 months or so, or maybe a year. But I really don't know. I know WWE's looked at him extensively. I know TNA's looked at him, and to me, it's one of those things where it's kind of like it's a no-brainer. It's like, man, this guy can talk. This guy's in shape. He's got a look to him. He's got passion. He's got a fire. He's got ability, and it's just kind of like, what are you waiting on?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, hopefully he'll get a shot. He's definitely got the talent, and obviously, a number of people can attest to what you're saying. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've been playing the Xbox One, and I got to ask you a question. What are your thoughts on the Xbox One thus far, and do you regret buying it over the PS4?
No, so far I really like it. I still do have an Xbox 360, and I remember, I don't know how many years ago, I had the PS2, and then when that was on its way out, it was like one of the first few times I started like I was on tour on a regular basis with WWE, so I had some money coming in. I was like, man, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to go out to the store, buy me one of these new video game systems. And the store I was at had all the ones at the market at the time. I think it was the Wii, the 360, and then the PS3. And there was nothing at the time that I would play on the PS3 that I couldn't also play on 360. And then you got like all the the Halos and the Gears of War and all that crap with it too. So that's why I went with it. So Microsoft kind of won me over after that. Like, I'm not a big online player. I will play with people I know. I'm not a fan of getting on, getting screamed at by 11-teeners and cussed at by, some kid who would crap his drawers if he saw me in real life because he's, dry humping my head after he killed me in Call of Duty. But yeah, the thing I really like about this one is it's just not, to me, it's just not about the video games. I can turn on my TV with my voice and, all the apps you can download and play with, that's cool. As far as the games that I've played so far, I'm really impressed with it. So it's been fun. That was kind of like I bought a pre-order when they first came out and not knowing well, I hope I have the extra money for it when they finally released this thing, and they released it while I was in Japan, so I was able to literally take some of my pay from Japan and be like, aha, here you go. So I'm enjoying it.
Well, I'm sure Microsoft will be happy to hear that. We'll get you out on this, man. We really do appreciate the time. This is a nice question to end it on. We usually get this one. Never gets old because everybody's journey is different, of course. Chris asks, what's the best piece of advice you could give any aspiring pro wrestler or a young pro wrestler that hopes to see success on a national or worldwide level?
All right, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, so bear with me. Number one, do some research, okay? There are people out there who will take your money to, quote-unquote, train you. They're not really training you. They're showing you how to fall. They're showing you how to take a bump, in a ring before a show, or showing you how to hit the ropes and some basic holds. That's not training. That's someone scamming you out of money. I'm going to be honest with you. If you are legit, even if you're out there and you've been trained already by one of these people, you need to find yourself a facility. And there's very few of them right now, unfortunately, but you need to find a place like an OVW. I know OVW is here. Harley Race has a camp in Missouri. Scott D'Amore has one up in the Windsor, Detroit area. ROH has one out in Philly still, run by Delirious. Pat Buck, who is another OVW guy, has one out in Jersey. I'm sure there's more. There's other places that are reputable, but these are places that have connections that have been taught the right way by the right people. And with that, they have places connected to them where you can start working right away. You're not just thrown out there and expected to try to sink or swim. Get yourself into one of these places that have a reputation for getting students opportunities. Notice I didn't say jobs, but opportunities, or have connections to get you opportunities. And also, what goes beyond that too is, let's be honest, take a look at yourself. And this is going to sound really, really harsh, but you know what? I'll be blunt and honest with you, because people are going to sugarcoat a lot of stuff in pro wrestling because they're going to try to get your money, especially if you just want to get trained. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at you as an honest person with an honest assessment. Would you pay to see you? If I put you on a movie poster, would you catch someone's attention and want to go, oh, I wonder what that's about? What is that movie about? I would pay my money to go see that movie because it looks cool. Or are you skinny fat and do you have wrestling gear that looks like it was bought at a combination of Dick's and Walmart? It sounds harsh, but that's what's missing from pro wrestling a lot of days. a lot of people, and I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from following their dreams, because, man, it's awesome when people get them, but not everyone should be in the ring. Not everyone should be involved in this business. And I say that it sounds very egotistical of me, and it says like, exclusionary. But you know what? Take that money that you were going to spend $1,000, $2,000, some guy training you, and just be a fan, man. Enjoy it. Support the guys you like. Buy their merch, buy their DVDs, support the products you want, buy the tickets, buy the pay-per-views, whatever. You know what I mean? And save your body the beating and the stress that you'll get from being in this business, because that's a lot of things in this business. If people look at you and kind of double take, and you've got the athletic ability and you stand out in a crowd, wow, look at that guy, he looks different, or that guy is an athlete. That's something that you're marketable. People can put you on a poster. People can put you on an advertisement, and you're not going to look like everybody else that's going to see that sign. You're not going to look like the pizza boy. You're not going to look like, Joe Schmo, working wherever. That's what part of this business is it's that larger than life, circus Hollywood style thing. They want people that look different. They want people that are the oddballs, the oddities. Why? Because that's the attraction to it. P.T. Barnum didn't make money, making dogs the attraction of his circus. Because why? Because everyone's got a dog. What do? He go out and got elephants. Pro wrestling's no different. You want to make money in pro wrestling, you want to be successful, you got to be different. You got to stand out. And I'm sorry, I think I'm going on a tangent here, but people want to be successful, and people ask me for advice. Well, dude, you weigh 150 pounds, and you don't think you look like you've ever been in a gym, and you've got Under Armour tights on with, you don't even have wrestling boots, and how am I supposed to take you seriously? You look like my neighbor dressed up to go play somewhere on the weekends with his kids, So if you want to be successful, man, get yourself a good school. Be serious, hit the gym, look like an athlete, and on top of that, look at yourself and be like, what do I have to offer pro wrestling? And would I pay to see someone like me? Would I pay someone to see someone like me in a ring, in a movie? Would I watch me on television? Not even necessarily in a pro wrestling, but if I was on a TV show, it's just all the same thing. It's all connected. You have to have something about you that makes people want to just watch. So, sorry, that's a very long-winded answer, but that's the best I can do.
Hey, that's tremendous advice. I'm sure this gentleman and anybody watching that hopes to be successful like you will take it to heart. I mean, that's well said. And honesty is the best policy. I mean, listen, you're right. At the end of the day, you got to look in the mirror. You got to be honest with yourself, and of course, you got to do your research. And all those schools you mentioned, definitely legit. Pat Buck's school is actually not too far from our studio here, so yeah, definitely could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely could attest to that. And I just saw the dog right there.
Yeah, Lando wants some attention. He's getting jealous.
I don't blame him. Hey man, before we let you go, where can we all find you online?
Right now, the best places is Twitter, which is my wrestling name, Jay Bradley, followed by PW, which very easily is just pro wrestling. And then I have also my Facebook is Jay Bradley, Facebook.com/Jay Bradley Impact Wrestling. And then soon here, just got a webmaster to jump on board on my bandwagon. So I'll be having a website up shortly too, which will be just jbradleypw.com.
Very cool, man. Thank you so much for the time. Tremendous insight. A lot of fun talking to you.